simple Swedish skier. However will I get my skis home though? I don't have a rack like that cool American. That American's got that sweet rack if I do say so. Oh geez, wow, yeah. That's a really nice rack. I just wish there was a video on a YouTube's that would like teach me how to build and put a rack on any type of roof rack I had on my 4x4 all-wheel drive vehicle to get my skis, snowboards, or other accessories to the mountain, yeah. Well, back to walking, I guess. Another day, another project. Today, we're thinking about trying to put a ski rack onto this roof rack. Now, just due to a time crunch when we were building it, we weren't able to put any modularity or rail systems like you'll see in the JCR roof rack, but I saved about $800 building this myself compared to buying that JCR Cherokee roof rack, the Low Pro. And so today we're going to figure out how to mount that Mini Cooper ski rack onto this piece of steel. Well, first thing we're going to have to do is strip down these Mini Cooper ski racks just to all the individual components. So this rail and the rack itself are the ones we're going to be trying to keep. I think we're just going to toss out the original mounting points. And so we're going to have to get these off, but they seem to be pinned in place. So we're going to have to use some delicate tools like this Allen wrench and probably some hammers. Managed to persuade the original mounts off of the rail system, got the ski racks off, and now I think I figured out how we're going to mount it onto the Jeep. Now, I've got some flat bar lying around from an old project, and it's just clamped on here. But I think we're going to weld the flat bar onto the pre-existing rack, and then run a bolt through the flat bar into that recession from the rail's original mount system. And that's about a 1-inch gap with a 1/2-inch slot. So I'll have to run to the hardware store to find 4 bolts that'll fit that order, but I'm sure they'll have one. And a little bit of welding, a little bit of drilling, and this will be on the Jeep, ready to haul some ski gear. Just got back from Tractor Supply Company. I got 2 things. I got the nuts and bolts we're gonna need, and I got an extra 48 inches of 1/8-inch standard stock steel, and that's just gonna help bridge the gap. I don't think I had enough left over of the 1/8 inch to finish all the rack mounts, but we've got them all. We're gonna cut them up, and we're going to fit the bolts into the recession for the original mounting points, and we're gonna do that for 2 reasons. One, I got some big old bolts and some big old nuts to go with them, and these big bolts are necessary for 2 reasons. One, they will self-lock when they're in this space. There's not enough room for them to move around to slip, and so that's beneficial for 2 reasons. One, we won't have to figure out a way to get a wrench in there and tighten them down. 2, we won't have to figure out, or the other option being welding these in here, since these are steel and those are aluminum, and I don't really have a way to weld aluminum. That would have been a bit difficult, and so this is the simplest of all the options. And the second reason I got really big bolts is because of the vertical strain, or the air resistance that these ski racks will have, with only 2 mounts, 2 singular points of contact, instead of having a running across the entire rail system and then mounting into the unibody like they did on the Mini Cooper. I feel like bigger is better. So what I'm doing right now is I am marking up where we're going to be welding the flat bar onto the roof rack. And two things, heads up. I'm not pre-drilling these because whether or not, I want the rack to be perfectly straight. So I'm going to measure and drill these after these are mounted onto the rack. That way I know exactly what is center and I can get it perfect on both sides. And there could be discrepancy if I pre-drill these and then I'm welding them up, and it could just be a 1/4 of an inch, but that 1/4 of an inch over these 41 inches could be a serious, you could notice the curve. And we like to keep things perfectly angled up. So one, I'm using this angle iron to get perfect placement for where we're putting these, and I'm putting them 2 inches out from the inside of this rack. So 2 inches in, I'm making a mark, and then 3.5 inches in, because these are 1.5 inches wide. And then I'm going to be brushing off the paint with just an electric brush and these copper wires. And that's just to get the cleanest weld we can. So I'm going to start prepping, and then we'll start welding. Well, once again, apologize for the rain, but we've already welded up the brackets, and I measured the 5-inch. There's a 10 and 1/8 gap between this, and a 9 and like 15/16 gap between this two. So it's about a 5-inch space right in the center, and I've already marked them with my Sharpie. And now I'm gonna go around and take the center punch and smack a little hole in each of those Sharpie marks. And after that, I'm going to take a small drill bit, do a pilot hole, and then I'm going to take our Christmas tree bit and pretty much go to its largest size to fit the bolts that we got here. So once you have those drill tapped, put your bolts through, and you know everything fits, pull it off and spray paint. Once we have our spray paint drying, sitting, probably gonna need at least overnight to cure. I'll leave it under the tarp so it stays dry, and then tomorrow we'll have it all set up and ready to haul skis up to the mountain. It's a new snowy day in Washington, and that blue sky's back after leaving us with all this snow. That's why we got the tarp up. Now the paint's dried, all ready to go. We just need to assemble all the parts, and just if that would happen, like, whoa, it worked. The snap. I was pretty confident the project would work. The snap worked, but as you can see, the project probably also worked. We'll find out when we put some skis in it and drive it down the driveway, or the highway, which technically that's a highway, so driveway's a highway. And this is really why you can see I wanted these double rail systems, because you can just snowboards, 4 skis, all the stuff can be carried up here, freeing up all the room inside of the vehicle. And this wasn't a difficult project. It was 8 welds, 4 bolts drilled, a little bit of fitment and sanding, and reduce, reuse, recycle, some stuff we already had laying around in a barn. You can find these on OfferUp, on eBay and stuff for pretty cheap. And you can't beat the price of free or affordable, guys. These aren't going to be breaking after just, 1 owner or 2 owners. So why buy them expensive brand new when you can get some reduced, reused, recycled, as Captain Planet would say. Now, I know not everyone has access to a welder, so an alternative to welding and building those brackets that we have here is a U-bolt bracket. And these are pre-made with a welded nut, so that instead of that bracket, you would strap this onto whatever part of your roof rack would fit and allocate the rail or ski rack, whatever one you can find on the aftermarket. And then the bolt that we went through the center of this bracket, you would just run into this. Be sure to get the corresponding pitch thread and size for this hole, not just any bolt. And that would be a great, cheap, easy alternative to welding. Even if you had a welder, this would be the simpler, less permanent modification to do. Thank you for coming by today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. Like and subscribe if this motivated you to get one of your own projects done. Go out there and do something.